Once upon a time, in a town near a river, there was a large cooperative factory that produced the finest textiles in the region. The factory employed many of the town's residents, each playing a vital role in the production process. The workers were proud of their craft, and the textiles they created were known far and wide for their quality. At the helm of this operation was a man named Mr. Adebayo, factory manager. Please, if you have not subscribed to this channel, kindle subscribed. Thank you. Now let's go. Mr. Adebayo was a man of great knowledge and experience, but he had a reputation for being strict and unapproachable. He believed that efficiency was the key to success and often pushed his workers hard, expecting them to meet high standards without question. He rarely offered praise, and when mistakes were made, he was quick to reprimand. His stern approach made him feared by many, though the factory's success was undeniable. One day, a new employee named Tunde joined the factory. Tunde was young and eager to prove himself, but he quickly realized that the work was much harder than he had anticipated. On his first day, he was assigned to the dyeing section, a crucial part of the textile making process. The task required precision and care, as any mistake could ruin an entire batch of fabric. As Tunde worked, he noticed that his colleagues were quiet and focused, speaking only when necessary. The atmosphere was tense, with everyone afraid of making a mistake. Despite his best efforts, Tunde struggled to keep up. His hands trembled as he handled the dyes, and before long he made an error that caused a batch of fabric to come out in the wrong shade. When Mr. Adebayo saw the ruined fabric, his face darkened with anger. "What is this?" he demanded, voice cold and sharp. Tunde stammered an apology, his heart sinking. He expected to be fired on the spot, but instead, Mr. Adebayo simply ordered him to fix the mistake and left without another word. The rest of the day passed in a blur for Tunde, who worked frantically to correct his error. That evening, as the workers were leaving the factory, an older employee named Mama Bisi approached Tunde. She had been working at the factory for many years and was known for her kindness and wisdom. Sensing Tunde's distress, she offered him some advice. "Tunde, don't be too hard on yourself," she said gently. "We all make mistakes. What's important is how we learn from them and how we treat others in the process." Tunde nodded, appreciating her words but still feeling the weight of his mistake. He resolved to work harder and be more careful, determined to prove himself. However, as the days went by, he noticed that no matter how hard he tried, the fear of making another mistake held him back. Pressure to meet Mr. Adebayo's expectations was overwhelming, and it began to affect his performance. One day, a large order came in from a prestigious client. The entire factory was abuzz with activity as everyone rushed to meet the tight deadline. The workload was immense, and tensions were high. Tunde found himself struggling once again, and as he tried to keep up, he accidentally spilled a large amount of dye, ruining another batch of fabric. This time, Mr. Adebayo's reaction was swift and harsh. He berated Tunde in front of everyone, his words cutting deep. "You're holding us all back," he snapped. "If you can't do your job properly, you have no place here." Tunde was devastated. He had tried so hard, yet it seemed he could do nothing right. Later that evening, as the workers gathered for their shift change, Mama Bisi decided to speak up. She addressed Mr. Adebayo directly, her voice calm but firm. "Mr. Adebayo, with all due respect, I think we need to change how we work together," she began. "Tunde is new, and he's still learning. Instead of criticizing him, we should be helping him." Mr. Adebayo frowned, not used to being challenged. "We can't afford mistakes, Mama Bisi. Our reputation is on the line," he replied. "But we can't afford to lose good people either," he countered. "We need to support each other, not tear each other down. Respect and cooperation are what make us strong, not just efficiency." The other workers murmured in agreement, emboldened by Mama Bisi's words. Mr. Adebayo stood in silence, realizing that perhaps he had been too focused on the factory's success and had forgotten about the people who made it possible. He saw the weariness in his workers' faces, the fear that had taken hold of them because of his harsh leadership. The next morning, Mr. Adebayo called a meeting with all the workers. He took a deep breath and addressed them with a sincerity that surprised even himself. "I've been too hard on all of you," he admitted. "I see now that respect and cooperation are just as important as the work we do. From now on, we will work together as a team. If anyone needs help, we'll support them. No one should be afraid to ask for guidance." Change was immediate. The atmosphere in the factory shifted as the workers began to communicate more openly, sharing tips and helping each other with tasks. Tunde, in particular, found himself improving rapidly under the guidance of his colleague. He was no longer afraid of making mistakes because he knew that he could count on his coworkers for support. As the deadline for the big order approached, the factory was a hive of activity, but the tension that had once gripped the workers was gone. They worked together seamlessly, with Mr. Adebayo now offering encouragement and constructive feedback instead of harsh criticism. The final product was one of the best the factory had ever produced, and the client was thrilled. When the order was completed, the workers gathered to celebrate their success. Mr. Adebayo, who had always kept a distance from such gatherings, decided to join them this time. He raised a glass and thanked everyone for their hard work. "This success belongs to all of us," he said, smiling. "We did it together." From that day on, the factory thrived not just because of the quality of its textiles, but because of the cooperation and respect that now defined its work. The workers were happier, more productive, and more loyal. Mr. Adebayo had learned that true leadership wasn't about instilling fear or demanding perfection, but about fostering an environment where everyone felt valued and respected. As for Tunde, he continued to grow in his role, eventually becoming one of the factory's most skilled workers. He never forgot the lessons he learned during those early days, and he made sure to pass them on to any new employees who joined the factory. The spirit of cooperation and mutual respect became a cornerstone of the factory's culture, leading to years of continued success. In the end, Mr. Adebayo realized that by treating his workers with respect and fostering cooperation, he had not only improved the factory's productivity, but had also become a better leader and a better human being. And in doing so, he had created a workplace where everyone could thrive together.